Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cole Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Dama Distributing. We specialize in sustainable packaging for the cannabis and CBD industries. We're going to talk about what you can and cannot say in the hemp and CBD world, and I'm just going to go down the line here and let everyone introduce themselves.
I am Jessica Arendt. I am the Chief Compliance Officer for Cannabidiol Life Brands. I am based out of, you like how I did that? I'm based out of Orlando, Florida. I have been in the hemp space now, specific to seed to sale, manufacturing, farming, compliance practices for the last 6 years, since before anybody knew what CBD was. And I have been in cannabis for 12 years, having come from the tequila industry.
Hello, my name is Derek Metzen, principal at Greenbox Architecture. We got into cannabis back in 2014 when it was first legalized in Oregon. I own a CBD farm in Oregon, and then also branched out and have some investments in the cannabis space, as well as involvement in a topicals company.
My name is Kyle Strubing. I own a few retail stores in the North Texas area. We did the wholesale thing for a couple years there too. Big in the retail spot. That's my area of expertise, as well as branding and marketing. So happy to be here and see if we can clarify any questions you guys have.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I like to keep this pretty open, so if you guys have any questions, please let us know. I don't like to just sit up here and talk the whole time, so there's a couple things we kind of want to go over, and we'll kind of branch out as we go along. Obviously, there's a bunch of FDA rules and regulations and laws and certain things that we can and cannot say when it comes to CBD, hemp, and even cannabis, which Texas is not too far away from. So one of the big things is House Bill 1365, talking about smokable flower. Kyle, I want to kind of direct this to you. Is there a way around this? Are there new laws coming in place that will allow this to be possible? Where is it going?
Yeah, so obviously I am not an attorney. Throw that out there. But in this space, we've had to get creative through a lot of it. With the issue with smokable hemp in Texas, and if you guys don't know, there was an injunction filed that now they'll go back into court. The court date is for February 1st. But that says basically that we cannot market smokable hemp as a smokable product. So a big challenge then for us, your customers are allowed to possess it, but a big challenge for us has been in how do I actually sell this thing now, right? It's one of my highest margin products. It does very well for us. So now how are we able to get rid of that, or to push the product? And it all comes down to labeling. When someone comes in, we have kind of the whole, this product is not intended for smokable purposes is what we're putting on there. And for me as a store owner, what the customer does with the product outside is entirely, that's on them, but when people come in, we have told them, and we're fully geared up for when February, since something does come, hopefully it rules in our favor, which keep in mind, guys, they contribute to that fund. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, to push that. But yeah, that we'll be able to then continue to sell that product then as a baking product. We've also relabeled the products as spice sticks or as teas then. Now, will that be as effective? Probably not. No, it's not the greatest delivery mechanism per se. But that does give us an opportunity to sell then and continue to at least retain the customers that we do have. So that was really big for us. In February we will find out more. But things seem to be moving pretty well. There's a pretty good case to keep smokable able to be sold, because it's crucial for a lot of us, especially during the pandemic. It's a lower ticket item, it's a high margin item for us, so we're fighting real big for it. But the compliance, as far as Texas is concerned, it's you want to stay away from that smokable, and keep in mind what the customer does, and lay that customer experience out for people, and say, if they start saying, well, I'm going to burn this, or I'm going to just take that step back and say, hey, this is kind of how we have to do business. And we've, even in our stores, already started to conduct business that way, and have, so that when it does happen, there's not this huge wrinkle or this huge bomb laid on us where we can't sell this product. So that's one thing for us, for compliance, and that was big. That was big for us because flower's huge. Flower's huge.
Right. Let's build on that a little bit. Talking about labeling and kind of different verbiage you have to use to be able to get around that. Is there a certain verbiage that needs to be on packaging when it comes to CBD, or is there a certain verbiage that we definitely cannot say when it comes to, let's say, health benefits, more or less?
I think we would all agree that the one thing you do not want to do, there's many things you don't want to do, but don't make any health benefits or claims of health benefits anywhere. That's on your packaging, that's on your social media. Don't like a post that references benefits in any way, because that can be attributed back to you.
Sure.
If you like something that's on someone's Facebook post associated with your company, well, the FDA, if they dislike it, they're going to come back at you, then it's all reporting based. Ooh, this is bad, and then pointing that out to the FDA, and they come back at you.
Perfect. So I know in the CBD game, we can use terms like organic. I'm primarily in the cannabis realm because I'm from Colorado. So are there other terms like non-GMO that we can use when it comes to CBD?
I'm going to answer this because my brand and my product is USDA certified organic. And we did go through an incredible amount of work with our partner in order to achieve that. We use the certifications when we have the certifications. Just because your farmer says he grew it organically doesn't mean you can claim that it's USDA organic. It is a verifiable, auditable certification. So, yeah, thanks. It was a rough night. You always want to make sure that when you're labeling and you're branding and you're using these certifications, and let's use non-GMO, verifiable, accredited certifications. So you can't just make the claim. Companies that say that they are registered with the FDA, you have to be registered with the FDA. It's not a claim that you can make on the bottle without it.
Perfect. And so when you're white labeling, that's a really good thing. You know, Jessica, they produce their own products. They also white label for other people. Mm-hmm. They do good work. You want to, if you're white labeling, which most people in the space do, you want to get along with a quality manufacturer in that way. If you go with a mediocre product, you've really got nothing to say because you can't make any health benefit claims for CBD. And if you've got a mediocre product, you're talking about, you know, hotel shampoo. Wow, isn't that exciting? Than just it's CBD, because most people don't understand what that is.
Right. This really comes down to your why. Okay, and my biggest question when the phone rings, I want to private label. Why? At the point in time that they say, God, do you see how much money is out there? There's so much money to be made. I just quietly hang up the phone. Because that person isn't going to play to the rules. And that person is going to compromise what we have spent years and years and years trying to achieve. The why and your partnership is everything to your success. You want your manufacturing partner, be it in Oregon, Florida, Texas, to be as on top of your compliance.
Yeah, right. So how do you keep yourself protected when you're working with these different vendors and white label companies? Who can you reach out to? I mean, is it a CBD or hemp attorney that you need to talk to? Is there a National Hemp Association board that's down here in Texas like we have on the West Coast?
Yeah, all the above. Don't be afraid to ask for references. Green Box Architecture, we do not work with an entity if they don't have a cannabis-specific attorney. If they aren't willing to pay an attorney to vet what they're doing, they may not pay you when it comes down to collecting your receivables. There's so much, I would say, greed I mean, it's a more frank term than what you put it, chasing that dollar, that there's just a lot of reason to be concerned. And there's a lot of people who've lost a lot of money. As much as you've heard of people making tons, there are more people who have lost their life savings because they made poor business decisions. So don't be that person. Ask questions. Do it over more than just a drink. Ask for their attorney, and if they're a family law, life law attorney, then you don't perhaps don't trust them as much as someone who's been in this space, had some bumps and bruises, and gone through those efforts.
I'm going to add to that. I am the Chief Compliance Officer for my brand, but I also consult because my brand is so unique in the methodology of its production. Very few are competitors, so there's no crossover, if you will. I come with an attorney. So when you're paying me and that attorney, because everything that we do has to be backed by that legal entity that knows the law better than we do, and you always want that backing. And if you're not coming into this space with the expectation that you're going to need to pay that, think again, because we live in a very litigious world. And one parent with one sick kid, whether it was your product or it was the dog dander they sucked down in the garden hose outside, doesn't matter, they're going to come for you.
So as these two have scared the hell out of you, I'm sure. I have a couple of general basic things that me personally that I go through as selling and marketing. I have 7 principles before we go and run. And it even starts in your branding, right? Like all the way things down to a logo of, very simple things that you would think, oh my gosh, like you cannot leading the customer to think that it's to make these medical claims it's just you have to be cognizant of that. So 7 things that I have. First thing, no medical claims, flat out, right? Seems basic, but you would think, and that even goes to like testimonials and stuff.
Yeah, expound on the testimonials.
Like big time testimonials. So and we can drag that back up. I'm going to get through my 7 here. No elements appealing to children, right? And these are guidelines just so you're keeping your head below so the FDA doesn't come by and knock your head off, right? And they did that, what was that, 2 summers ago or last summer? And you guys can read and learn from these mistakes that these other companies have made, right?
It was published November 19th.
Exactly. And you could go on the website and see these exact states and a lot of things and what we came up with these, like these principles. Nothing false or misleading. If you're organic, you better be able to back it up. That's another thing, right, guys? No testimonials, like I said, especially even if you have a doctor coming up. I recommend, guys, that it doesn't pay for that. It really doesn't. No depiction of product consumption is another one that I stay away from, as well as potency statements. And you want to make sure that it is also known as this is for adult use only. Those are 7 general things that I go through as far as marketing and stuff is concerned. What we teach the employees in the store. That's another thing that and if we just go with those 7 principles, because yes, you're like, well, how the hell do I market this thing then? If I can't do all this, how do I, how do I market it? And there's definitely clever ways to do so. But keep in mind, even if you have a product that you believe cures cancer, you're going to get knocked down for that. And people don't need to know. People already know what CBD is kind of for, right? It's not like 3 years ago when we were having to educate everybody. People are looking for this stuff. So it's really not worth it for you to sit here and say, I can cure cancer, because it's just, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. You know what I'm saying? So
That's a great expression.
Yeah,
Right.
that's so true. That's funny. And to put this in context, a lot of things we say are scary. It's good to have a holistic perspective of things, but keep in mind, CBD edibles are illegal according to the FDA.
by the letter of the law. Yeah.
That's right. But you walk through that room, there's a ton of them in there. It's being produced. The manufacture or use of CBD in goods is illegal because everything is assuming that this is legit based on the 2018 Farm Bill, which allows for smokable flower, but it doesn't really get into the nuances of CBD. So while there are things that are definitely great. Those things are factual, but people are still doing it. So it's what is your risk tolerance? And I mean, we're all in the CBD world. So obviously we have the FDA lists different types of statements you can make. So structure, function, claims are allowed, such as calcium builds strong bones. It's a fact. It's verifiable, independent. Now, your assumption is that milk will build strong bones because an industry association pushed that message, right? We haven't really proved definitively, though there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that CBD has significant health benefits. So that's the difference in those things.
Yeah, literally the only thing that it's approved for is what the
Epilepsy.
epilepsy, Lennox-Gastaut and Dravet syndrome. I mean, and that's it.
Which is patented deviant
Right.
of a molecule or deviation. So it's a very specific use.
So some of the ways that we handle it under our brand, if you go to cannabidiollife.com, all you get there is education. You will not find a store and you will not find product there. The store and the product sit on a completely different URL for that purpose. We want you to get the education, but we don't want to draw attention to the product. When we get testimonials and they say, this cured blah, 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 we go back and say, gosh, we really appreciate that you took the time for this, but we can't make that claim. Is there any way you could change that to, I think it did, I believe it did, suggestive language? It's a very fine line, but it is not definitive. When the FDA issued those infractions, it was November 2019, I got called to come and clean up 5 of those. It was pretty expensive. They were seemingly small infractions. You look at that and go, what is the big deal? And at the end of the day, the big deal is you have to remember that it's going into somebody's mother, uncle, brother, child, dog, somebody that they love. You don't know what the composite of their system is, and you don't know what the allergens may or may not be, the pathogens, et cetera. So precautionary is always the best way to err, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure a safe product is getting in.
Right, exactly. And building on the FDA rules, there's actually 2 cannabis-derived chemicals that are approved by the FDA, but they are 100% synthetic. So they're not actually using the plant. They're their own
Synthesizing.
derivative of the THC molecule itself. So at least they're, on there. So they are looking into it. And the beauty of the Farm Bill allows us to now do that research so that we can find what the actual benefits are, and getting past just the isolate of CBD and finding out that full spectrum actually has a huge benefit to it as well. So now that you have all these rules and regulations and you've found your proper vendors and you've vetted everyone, how do you differentiate yourself between the other 5,000 CBD companies that are out there? Is it packaging? Is it your message of being organic? And
No, for us, being in retail, it's an entirely different game, right? It's all about education, education, education. We try to, we try to make sure that we're very transparent. We have a very large brand, and like I said, we know that a lot of times after 3 years, we've done a lot of this education. So for us, trying to drive, stores or drive door swings is big for us, and that there's a lot less. It's not as stringent, and I guess we get a little body language once you have someone in the store. So we're able to kind of, offer that consultative approach without, at the same time, guys, right? Like that doctor consultation relationship thing, like try this out and let me, and call me in a day or whatever. There's some of that, but like that's client-patient relationship. Like that's a no-no. Like you have to be very careful, like, and you cannot say like, my guys, like it's not, oh, what's the dose on it? Dude, it's not a dose. Like it's anything that leads to medical or anything like that, you have to be so careful. And I think you could get away with a lot more spoken word, obviously, but when you're writing this stuff down, it has to be laser. It has to be. And we're able to kind of, and a lot of these bigger brands are pitching for us what, long answer to a short question is pitching that whole overall lifestyle or overall experience is kind of how we've circumvented that a little bit.
Yeah, you just touched on the word,
Yeah.
which is lifestyle.
Yeah.
Brand in Oregon that has done a great job of creating that lifestyle sort of experience, that's their brand, is Oregrown. Look them up. They got pulled off Instagram, Facebook several times, and they said, what are we doing? Because we can't post consumption, we can't post product, we can't say cannabis. What are we going to do? Well, what's Oregon known for? It's known for an outdoor lifestyle. It's known for rock climbing, whitewater rafting, hiking in the forest. So they started posting that. They started posting that. And it may have a logo on it. It may have something else that hints at what they do. But that is how they get their social media presence. And then they have a following. And someone goes, oh, I've seen that T-shirt before. I've seen that. And you know what? When it comes down to 280E, they're able to write off the swag that they sell. They're able to write off the portion of their dispensary that's associated with that. And if you don't know about 280E, look it up. Paying your taxes legally, but as few as possible is really important, especially in this game. And you know, what they sell in branded gear is substantial. And so if you have a dispensary or a line or a product that people are getting behind and you have a following, start pushing that stuff. Get some branded Yeti mugs out there. Get that stuff out there. People they'll buy it, and you'll be surprised how much of a portion of your overall revenue that will drive.
Most people in the CBD space that are consuming or going for that consumption are going for a lifestyle. They're looking to be healthier. They're looking to get off the pharmaceuticals. They're looking to give up whatever the opiate is, whatever that picture looks like. So lifestyle is everything. When you're advertising, understand that they want to relate to you. That is the entire beauty of social media. I use that term loosely right now, but that is the beauty of social media. People wanting to see your life. They want to see your lifestyle. They want to be you, right? It's the idea of emulation. If you're healthy and you're happy and you're living this incredibly, you know, it is that you have. Well, if it's CBD, by all means. Promoting a lifestyle and education over promoting the product for its definitive end results, because the truth is we don't have enough data and information to really know all the things it does to the endocannabinoid system together and or apart uniquely when the molecules are broken out. When you come at it from, or when we come at it from an educational perspective, we are literally drawing research material that's coming out of Israel from Shulam, who is, if you don't know that name, go look it up. He is the godfather, or Dr. Hanush, another one. He actually and go with the hard line of these research projects coming out of the universities, because that works really well for us from an educational standpoint. Again, we don't make claims. And anytime I see anybody making a claim, okay, that starts with a B and ends with an H, because I am the worst person in the world about that. Take it down, take it off, get rid of it, because we have to do this the right way.
Perfect. So talking about lifestyle and the way that you're marketing, sustainability has been a huge push for the industry as a whole, from everything from lighting to soil to HVAC systems to how you compost to being organic. Is that something you would want to promote? Do you see or hear from your customers or clients looking for more sustainable options instead of package everything in plastic? Because you spent all that time, energy, and money to get this high quality product, and then the end result is just poisonous plastic that's being touted as a huge problem across the world. We have the Pacific Ocean patch, which is larger than the state of Texas now. So do you see that moving in the right direction? And do you see your customers wanting or willing to pay for it?
Yes and yes. Yeah. So when we started our hemp farm years ago, what we talked about was not the CBD. We talked about the opportunities for derivative products from the byproducts of that manufacturing, textiles, plastics, all those other things that we could create with that. And that's a message that we started putting out there. Branding a farm, it doesn't really work in most cases. Branding products does, but it's a thing. Now you look at COVID in the past year, and how many things have you seen that turned into plastic and disposable and whatnot? All of a sudden everything's disposable and everything's being thrown away. Well, why can't we use hemp plastics? I'm personally much more comfortable with the hemp plastic than one that's made out of algae. It just somehow that feels weird to me, algae plastic. But hemp plastic, I can get behind that.
Right, and there's so much biomass in this industry that is literally just being either thrown away or composted when it can be used for things like textiles and wood and paper and hemp plastic.
So we are actually doing that.
Yeah.
The methodology of our organic material and using that as our solvent for extraction. Can't really go into detail because it's patented. But it is a repurposed program. And then we take the bask, the fiber, the stalk, everything left over. We are starting to play with paper and fabrications. Nestle, Converse, Vans, Levi Strauss have all announced that by 2025, we will be working with hemp cottons, a blend. And the expectation is by 2030, we'll no longer be working with cotton. Everything will be hemp. Hemp is biodegradable. We're building hempcrete. We're building little teeny tiny houses and communities in Breckenridge, Colorado, made out of hempcrete. We have a brand new processing facility that just went up in the Midwest in Illinois. They are getting ready to do fibers and create building materials, flooring, wall material, et cetera. We are blowing wide open in this. I get goosebumps when I talk about it. Sorry, excuse me. It's exciting. I mean, it's really, I'm considered an OG because I came into this years and years and years ago, kind of scratching my head going, what? And here we are now, and it's common language. It's becoming more and more common. And I came from Colorado and moved to Florida a year ago. And my biggest, excuse my French, bitch, was that I would pull up to a dispensary, and on the front side, it was all organic and plant. You go behind, and the dumpster is overflowing with plastic, putting everything into plastic. And now there's a movement in the industry and a conversation happening going, listen, don't be a hypocrite, right? We're saying this plant will put out 4 times the oxygen of any plant on the planet. This plant will remediate the earth and clean the earth. This plant grows in every climate, on every continent, for every conceivable purpose, and can be traced back to the Ming Dynasty. This plant is the solution to so much, including climate control, theoretically. So why the heck do we continue to use plastic when we could be making hemp material and totally change the course of our planet?
Well, to me, it's just a, it's a good business decision for all of us to be, to want this, to want the sustainability and to use the plant, because the more the plant gets out there, the easier our business is. Do I know if my end customer really necessarily cares about that? I don't know. Is there incremental, I think they do, but is there incremental price to, cost to benefit analysis? I'm not entirely sure, but we're this, and we need to make sure, and at least it's for us, it's very, very important, because I want to keep this industry going so that I can give it to my end customer. So yeah, I mean, it's very important.
Yeah, and when you're talking to your local legislators, be sure to remind them about all the other benefits. I mean, talk about it globally. It's not about CBD, it's about the plant globally. So there's a reason Mitch McConnell pushed for the 2018 Farm Bill. He saw his whole jurisdiction getting hammered because they're growing a plant that's literally killing people. He wants to see them transition to hemp. I mean, that's frankly why. So it's an opportunity for economic development within his area of supervision. And there's no reason that can't be the same way in Texas. Now, granted, it takes a fair more water than I generally see advertised, but it brings so many benefits. It is a fantastic plant. And at the end of the day, when you do turn it into hempcrete, it's a carbon sink. It petrifies in place and sucks carbon out of the air, as well as remediating soils when it's being grown. There's a lot of really good things about it, and that education piece is participating in a larger aspect of this.
The whole plant,
Yeah.
the whole plant, I mean, even CBD, we're at a CBD expo, right? We're talking about all these other cannabinoids and everything. I mean, the entire plant is key. It's just going to help us. It's just going to help us.
Yeah.
So when we do move to more sustainable packaging and hemp plastics and hempcretes and hemp papers, how do we properly educate the consumer? Because there's so much misinformation and greenwashing out there of other products that are just being marketed as being sustainable or eco-friendly, and we find out when you actually dig deeper that they're really not. And so there's just so much misinformation, terms that are being misused like biodegradable or compostable that are being thrown around all the time. And for the average consumer, most people don't understand that the recycling system doesn't work. Less than 9% of all plastics worldwide are recycled. Here in the US, it's much lower than that, and it's really depressing. So when it end of its life? Can you throw it in your backyard? Can you throw it in the trash? Obviously, that's not where you want it to go, because no matter what it's made out of, if the end of life is the landfill, there's nothing sustainable about that. So how do we properly educate our customers?
You say the same thing 50,000 times.
Just keep it.
You have 4 or 5 facts that are in your back pocket, and throw out there. I can produce more pulp for paper in 10 weeks on one. Something that's been growing for 30 years, if I can do the same thing in 10 or 15 weeks. I mean, that math just really makes sense. So we could produce so much more with so much less. Why not do that? Challenge people's assumptions. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to.
We come at it from a little bit of a different perspective because I have a history in plastic that's very personal. My parents 1989 when China moved in with her high-density plastic bags and literally wiped out their business in 12 months, and my parents went broke. And I went from fast track to college to, sorry, we can't afford that. And it was a very pivotal time in my life. I began to really understand plastic. Prior to that, or further into that, is my grandfather was a developer and developed the cone from rubber in Germany. And so for me, it is very environmental. I have grandchildren, and I look at this 2-year-old and this 3-year-old, and I wonder what's the world going to look like in 30 years for you if we keep this up? And suddenly, little Greta Thunberg has more relevance in my life than she did when she was very annoying to me 6 months ago. With what? Who's this person of the year? She's like 12. What are we talking about? And then I really got to thinking about it, and have really spent the last year really drilling down on that with an understanding of where we're going in this industry with fibers. And this is new for our country, more or less. We haven't been allowed to do it without this Farm Bill. What we stand to gain in the bigger picture from what we do with remediating the earth itself in the Amazon, but we're planting the hemp over here, we're kind of creating now this new balance and a change, a shift and a change. We're going from a society of gimme, 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 which is what we were doing when we were cleaning out the Amazon, another hot topic for me, obviously, to where we are now with now a more sustainable, biodegradable concept, and now building materials. I'm married to a contractor and a builder, and the stuff they work with, okay, let me just tell you about how often I'm like, can you go get a lead and asbestos check, please? Because there's so much of it, okay? And then you add to the fact that it's not fire retardant, all these things. Now I live in Florida, and I live right on the East Coast, and every time there's a hurricane warning, I kind of go, never been through one of those before, and I'm kind of scared. And then suddenly somebody said, did you know that hempcrete will hold up to a hurricane? And I went, what? Build me a house. We're really going places with the fiber. We're really going places with this plant. And it is really a pivotal time in history. We are literally making history right now.
Yeah, there's just so many benefits from the plant. The problem is there's not enough companies utilizing that excess fiber. There's maybe a handful of companies that actually produce hemp paper on a commercial scale. There's a handful, maybe 3 companies in the whole country that do a true hemp plastic on a commercial scale. So it's in its infancy, but we need those companies to jump on board and say, hey, you have all this biomass, you have 3 million pounds of it, let me do something with it, instead of just tossing it or throwing it into the compost.
Yeah, but look at how far we've come in the last 5 years. We were just in our infancy with the idea of cannabinoid medicines. 6 years ago, nobody knew what it was. So, these things tend to, now in a world of technology, take off hard and fast.
Right.
Yeah, and those byproducts, I would say Colorado's done a fantastic job of utilizing those in really creative ways. There's a number of industries that are popping up there, whether it be flooring or wood products, hempcrete. There's some really interesting folks who are on Instagram, and I don't know how much of it they're actually doing, but they're challenging people's perceptions and the way they're thinking and making it more broad. So kudos to them.
So we have about 9 minutes left. Do you guys have any questions or comments for the panelists?
going back to what we can and can't say, I have a CBD brand, and we're in collab with a medical professional who is trained through the American Cannabis Nurses Association. Can he repeat what he was taught through, like, not even?
Well,
Here's
he-
why.
That's
Unless it's for, unless he's referring to, like Epidiolex or in two specific epilepsy things. I mean, that's,
Like not in Texas, right, but in Colorado, you would be able to, right?
No,
No.
nowhere.
Nowhere at
This
all.
is an FDA mandate, and the
Yeah,
reason
FDA.
why is we can't prove anything yet. There isn't, they claim there isn't
Yeah.
enough data, and I say the word claim because we got to vaccinations for COVID very fast.
they have the three biggest gripes for the FDA and CBD in general are, they're worried about liver injuries, specific or potential interactions, and then male reproductive. They're going to be able to sit here and say, okay, well, we've done these studies to show, and they're actively fighting that already for when they do come down with their hand. I mean, I know that American Shaman Specific is running we're running liver tests on CBD right now, because they are going to come down and they are going to crack down. And if, like, you guys can see and look at all the stuff. I mean, it's the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938. I mean, they're going off of a bill, legislation from 1938. I mean, it's wild to sit there and look at this still, so if you want, dig in there. There's some interesting stuff about, like, cosmetics and stuff. I know from marketing, we always lead with cosmetics and the topicals and stuff because, they look at it a lot differently. They really do. So, there's kind of a way, there's a fun fact for you to help you market a little bit.
The answer is, he can say, I think it did this, I believe it did that, it's possible, maybe, always suggestive language, but never, never definitive.
And you still open yourself up for exposure when you do
Yeah,
that.
you do, it's a fine line.
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
But
Anybody else?
But what's the payoff, though, from, right, I mean, are we going to attack specific cases or whatever, you know what I mean? It goes back to that.
As far as consulting with the potential patient, like, or would it be like just suggestive terms, just.
Yes, exactly. And if you go find Joe Rosado, he's a doctor, and he's on the floor. I'll introduce you to him after this if you like. He was our medical director for our brand for quite some time, and then we disconnected because about how he addresses these things and how he gets around it with the patients. It's a different position from his practice. He is a general practitioner. He does have a medical license. He balances that with the marijuana license, but he's going to be your best resource for information on that.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
On your top 7, you mentioned potency statements. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, like, especially if you can't back it up, the most powerful, rah, rah, rah,
Okay.
stuff like that. And then also, like, yeah, I mean, you just want to make sure you're not dosing numbers and stuff like that. They get real,
Okay.
that's a red flag, is
Gotcha.
what you're looking for, and that's obviously FDA and the bots, the Facebook bots or the social media, the dreaded bots is what you want to kind of.
So just your like
scrape that.
milligrams per milliliter and your link to your
just- yeah.
COA, that's all fine.
All
Okay.
lifestyle, you see pictures of, on our Facebook ads or whatever, there, some lady's like jumping up in the air and is all excited, and, it's just try to be part of that. That's really what you want to stick to.
Yeah. When you see 20,000 milligrams, that's hemp oil,
Yeah.
not CBD.
In a bottle this big?
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
If you say you're going to put 500 milligrams in there, put 500 milligrams in.
Yeah.
So in the state of Florida, we have unique rules. We are this test state, if you will, for the FDA. We have to register the brand. I have to register with the FDA the brand. I have to go through the inspections. I have to go through the animal feed inspections. Okay, they come out and they research and look at everything that we do, and then they say yay or nay. It is a great website, a great benchmark for what's coming, because New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey all went, oh, I like the way that's working, so I'm going to go do that too. And you're going to see these states coming online one by one, kind of following that same practice and protocol. Everybody knows there's a lot of money to be made here. The states benefit, oh my God, it's ridiculous. This is an economic solution to so much, and that is the driving force. 1 in 4 Americans at this point have tried CBD. Listen, it's mind-blowing to me, because 6 years ago, people were like, listen, Jessica, you stoner, this is never going to take off. My own mother was like, you know, you go from tequila to pot, and you think everything's going to be okay. You know what? 2 years later, I gave my mother some CBD. Is that Dr. Rosado? That's the man you want to talk to. Sorry. So, you're late. So, you know, really, Florida's a great blueprint for what you want to do. Go to the USDA.com FDA website for Florida and read through those requirements, and then Texas right behind it, which is mind-blowing, because I came from a time, true story, 3.5 years ago, when a private label here in Texas got raided. Mrs. went to jail, Mr. went to jail, children got taken to CPS, everything was confiscated. I still get goosebumps. Everything was confiscated, and I got this hysterical phone call of, what the do I do now? And here we are just 32 months later, and this is the only state in the union where theoretically you can put it in your mouth, up your backside, wallow in it, drown in it, shove it under somebody else, and the state is like, yay, okay. Brick and mortar stores popping up everywhere, okay? 32 months ago, we've come a long way. So don't get discouraged. We just want to make sure that you have all the pros and all the cons, because you're making history, and it's a tumultuous road. You've got to be able to shift and pivot and be on top of regulations 24/7.
And this is a unique state in that you look at hemp as if it's marijuana, and really they are two plants of the same genus, being cannabis. One's the fun, one's the wallflower, at the same party. And so the politics here are a little different than elsewhere. So just keep that in mind. Your politicians really do look at this as if it's marijuana, and it's not. So if you're talking about education, what you can and can't say, push that forward, and that'll probably be your best help from a marketing standpoint to get people to feel comfortable with it. Because you want people to feel comfortable with consuming. It's safe, it's approachable.
Questions? Anybody else?
I think he had a question down here front and then got bypassed. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, that's all I have, unless you guys have any other statements. Amber alert.
No, if you guys ever have any questions, especially
Yes.
marketing, whatever, I'm an open book. Hit me up on LinkedIn or anything. We're happy to help.
Me too.
You know.
You can find all over LinkedIn and on the floor.
Yep, absolutely.
And the best thing to do is read the laws and follow the rules, because you are still working with a federally controlled substance, even if it is hemp and CBD. If it does have THC in it, just follow the rules. It's easier to do it that way instead of getting raided and getting your business shut down and all of that. So
There are some websites you can go to that will give you the regulations for each state. You want to be aware of each state, because there are 4 or 5 states in the union where it is absolutely forbidden.
yep, even though it is federally illegal, yeah, there are some states it's still not a chance.
Don't send it to Idaho.
Or Iowa, or Nebraska, or South Dakota.
Yeah.
And if you have an online business and they're coming in from those states, put up a disclaimer that says that they have to check and acknowledge, this is against the law in my state.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right.
If you have any questions for us, feel free to come up and ask us anything afterwards. Thank you.